Just 3 years ago, Isaiah Thomas finished 5th in the MVP conversation and had the best season of his career. He finished 3rd in scoring with 28.9 and led the Boston Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals before losing in 5 games to the Cleveland Cavaliers. This was a magical season for Isaiah Thomas. He led the NBA in fourth quarter scoring and basically took over games in the final minutes. Before he got traded to Boston, he was known as a bench player, a guy who you put in and can give you buckets off the bench to give your team a spark while the starters are resting. That's how everyone viewed Isaiah Thomas before he got to Boston. Isaiah Thomas was drafted in the 2nd round with the 30th pick by the Sacramento Kings. He was the last player to be selected in that draft and came into the league with a huge chip on his shoulder. His first few years with the Kings, he had to grind and make a name for himself. In his 3rd year, he set career highs by averaging 20 points with 6 assists while shooting 45% from the field. The following season, the Sacramento Kings sent restricted free agent Isaiah Thomas to the Phoenix Suns in a sign-and-trade deal. In return, the Kings would acquire a $7 million trade exception and the rights to some guy I never heard of named Alex Oriaki, there we go, along with the 57th overall pick in 2013. His time in Phoenix would be short-lived. After playing 46 games, he was traded to the Boston Celtics in exchange for Marcus Thornton and a 2016 first-round pick. Little did Isaiah Thomas know this would be a blessing for his career. Like I said earlier, he was seen as a bench player, but in Boston, he would be upgraded to a full-time starter. Standing at 5'9", Isaiah Thomas had a lot to prove from being one of the shortest players in NBA history. Once being integrated into Brad Stevens' system, things started to click for him. During the 2017 NBA season, Isaiah Thomas was nothing but spectacular. He averaged 28.9 points while adding 5.9 assists. He was an all-star and finished 2nd team All-NBA. He finished 5th in MVP voting. On December 30th, 2016, he scored a career-high 52 points, including 29 points in the 4th quarter, to lead the Celtics in a win over the Miami Heat. This set a franchise record for points in the quarter. In January 2017, he averaged 32.9 points for a month, the 3rd highest monthly average in Celtics franchise history behind Bird and Pierce. He scored 20-plus points in 43 consecutive games, setting a franchise record. He finished the season with over 2,000 points, just the 6th Celtic to do so. One day before the playoffs began, his sister tragically passed away in a car accident. He played Game 1 of the first round the next day, scoring 33 points in a loss. He even attended his sister's funeral after playing Game 2 of the first round versus the Bulls. Game 2 of the next round versus the Wizards, he scored 53 points in an overtime win. This was the 2nd highest in Celtics franchise history, behind John Havlicek, and remains the most points any active player has scored in a playoff game. In Game 7 of that series, he scored 29 points with 12 assists in a win, helping the Celtics advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. He played the first 2 games of the Eastern Conference Finals before being ruled out for the remainder of the series with a hip injury. Unfortunately for him, the hip injury and other nagging injuries have prevented him from reaching the same success he achieved in Boston. It was really unfortunate to see how the Celtics treated him in the end. He gave 110% to that franchise, and with him set to be a free agent the following season, they traded him, along with the 2018 first-round pick they got from Brooklyn in exchange for Kyrie Irving, who was basically fed up with playing with LeBron James and the Cavaliers. I wish I could say things got better for Isaiah Thomas, but they didn't. His time in Cleveland was filled with drama, and even more drama, and also some injuries. During the trade deadline in 2018, he was traded once again. This time it was to the Lakers, alongside Channing Frye and the 2018 first-round pick, in exchange for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. It seemed as if Isaiah Thomas was destined to be a journeyman at this point in his career, jumping from team to team, but it didn't end here. After just 17 games with the Lakers, he was traded the following season to the Denver Nuggets. His time in Denver would be more of the same. Before going to the Nuggets, it was seen as a good situation for him, since he and the Nuggets coach Mike Malone had a previous relationship in Sacramento, where he had his breakout year. People around the league thought this would be an ideal situation for him to earn back some minutes, but that never really happened, and he was cut rather quickly from the rotation after his comeback from his hip injury. He would only play 12 games. His best game with the Nuggets will be on a cold winter night on February 2nd, where he scored 16 points with 3 rebounds and 2 assists. At the time, he was on a 1-year deal with the Nuggets, and after that season, he signed another 1-year deal, but this time it was with the Washington Wizards. In Washington, he would get a well-needed fresh start because Lord knows he needed it. He's been through a lot in a short period of time, from his sister's death, to being thrown away from the Boston Celtics, to being bounced around the league in only a few years. Before the season was suspended, he was having the best season he has since 2018, but that's not saying a lot. Just a few years ago, he was at his peak and on his way to a max contract. It just seemed like everything that could go wrong went wrong. Maybe it was a bit of bad luck, but I feel like he didn't deserve what he went through. He may not be the best player, but I do think if he's put in a good situation and system, he will thrive. And that was the case when he was in Boston. Brad Stevens implemented a system that was perfect for him. He surrounded Isaiah Thomas with above-average defenders to compensate for his height and deficiencies as a defender. It was a successful system if you ask me. While everybody else focused on defense and getting stops, that played perfectly for him to score the ball and do what he did best, which was get buckets. I wonder how things would be if Isaiah Thomas never suffered that hip injury. Would he have gotten that max contract he was searching for? Would he have continued to be successful under Brad Stevens' systems, or was this destined to happen since he was a short man in a tall man's game? I think the world may never know. I think this is just something you add to the countless list of NBA what-ifs.